call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. in the Historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for January 20th, 2026. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you'd like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you'd like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh?
Here.
Council members Leyendecker?
Here.
Resnick?
Here.
Roussel? Here. Sprank?
Here.
Staver?
Here.
Wethel?
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan?
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh. I'll turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite all who are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our presentation this evening is Recognize Grand River Center for 2026 Exhibitor Magazine Centers of Excellence Award.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director. It's great to be back with you again, and we've had the opportunity to share some of the great achievements of the Oakview Group team at the Grand River Center with you recently over the past few months, and this is the next opportunity to do so and the evolution of an award that we previously brought to City Council. And so I've invited General Manager Ryan Boniface to come and tell you more about this great honor.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Ryan Boniface, Oakview Group, Grand River Center, and Five Flags Center General Manager. Last time I stood before y'all, the Grand River Center was being recognized by Exhibitor Magazine with its Center of Excellence Award. At that time, 3 convention centers nationwide with under 100,000 square feet of exhibit hall space were being recognized for the recognition, which those included Overland Park Center, Albany Convention Center, and the Grand River Center. Since then, the Exhibitor Magazine Committee put out their special award for the best convention center in the country, and happy to report that the Grand River Center won that award. Other winners with larger exhibit hall space include McCormick Place in Chicago, Indiana Convention Center in Lucas Oil Stadium, and the Greater Columbus Convention Center. The recognition is based on strong client feedback, high exhibitor satisfaction, impact, and venue versatility, and are evaluated by facility functionality, event services and execution, and sustainable initiatives, which we continue to enhance and do more of. And just want to speak for a moment about our sustainability efforts, which I know a lot of y'all are aware of. We've accomplished the microgreen growing system in our kitchen. We have an on-site garden on 5th Street. And what's cool about both of those initiatives was we achieved them with the City of Dubuque's Sustainable Grant, and we worked with Wahlert High School students and Re-Evolution Food. We also do composting throughout the year and replaced all of our plastic straws with agave straws and are currently working on this year's project. This award reflects the dedication and professionalism of our team, and Oakview Group is proud to represent the City of Dubuque and continue to provide exceptional experiences. Thank you all for your continued support.
Well, folks, it's hockey season. We got us a hat trick. This is the 3rd time that you've been here for these awards. Congratulations again. I mean, this is just fantastic. And Ryan and the team, I mean, to be in the company of the other places that you mentioned and to be recognized in the way that we are by Exhibitor Magazine, I mean, it really is incredible. I looked at this and I had to laugh the first time I saw it. I thought, man, again, here we go. We're going to have these guys in the room again talking about this. But it's well-deserved. We just had an event there yesterday with Martin Luther King Jr., the breakfast that is there every single year, and it was wonderful to be able to be there and have everybody enjoy that space again. And I happened to see a list not long ago of some of the other events that you've got coming your way. So it's just, you're doing great work. We really appreciate it. Keep it up, and congratulations to everybody. I know this is a team effort. You got Ryan up here speaking for you, but this is a major team effort. So thank you for all your work. We sincerely appreciate it.
Perfect. We appreciate y'all. Y'all good with the little?
Yeah, come on up. Yeah, let's do a picture. Let's get the whole council in if you don't mind. Yeah. Push the chairs out of the way. Our resident photographer, City Attorney Crenna Brumwell.
It's funny to move over or anything, even with the lift y'all have.
I know, exactly, yeah. It's the only time I'm ever tall, Ryan. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, everybody. Well, congratulations again. Thanks for coming. All right, Adrian, we can move to consent items.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration, and consent items can be found on pages 2 through 5 of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Before I ask, Eric, if you could please take us the live feed off the screens up here, I'd appreciate that. Is there anyone here in chambers who would like to remove any of the consent items for separate discussion this evening? Seeing no one here, do you have anyone virtually? All right.
No.
All right, then back to us.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Resnick and a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Liondecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next are items set for public hearing. We have 3. First is 7800 Chavanel Building Remodel Project, initiate public bidding process and setting date for a public hearing for February 2nd, 2026. Second is setting a public hearing to approve First Amendment to the amended and restated lease agreement between the City of Dubuque and Bunge USA Grain LLC for February 2nd, 2026. And third is resolution of necessity for the proposed amended and restated urban renewal plan for the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal Area, version 2026.1, for February 16th, 2026.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for the dates specified.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Roussel and a second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Liondecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next are boards and commissions. We have application review for the Civil Service Commission, Community Development Advisory Commission, and Long Range Planning Advisory Commission.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. So we'll start with the Civil Service Commission. So just to note on the agenda here, this is a mayoral selection of as an appointment. So this will actually occur, my selection to the council will occur on February 2nd, 2026, and then the city council will meet to concur with this on March 16th, 2026. This is the one commission that is a little bit different. So we have one opening this time. It's a 4-year term through the year 2030. We have 5 different applicants, so I'm just going to call them one at a time and see if anyone has any, if anyone is here to speak to these applications. So Randall Ludowitz is our first applicant. Do we have anyone to speak to that application?
And Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ludowitz did submit written input upload to the agenda item.
All right, thank you, Adrian. All right, next is Colleen McKenna. Anyone to speak to that application?
Ms. McKenna also submitted written input.
All right, thank you, Adrian. All right, Brian Nisus, anyone here to speak to that application? Please, come on up, yep. Just a name and address there for the record. And you can move the mic and the podium itself will move too.
Brian Nisus, 1841 Philrich Drive. My interest, I saw it in the newspaper. I recently moved back to Dubuque from Asbury area. I've been involved in other projects and volunteer services. Currently, I'm a chaplain at the Moose Lodge. And I've been in the Dubuque Community Schools on their boards for the union. And now that I'm back in town, I saw this and I thought I'd want to get involved again.
All right, well, thank you very much, Brian, for your comments. Anyone else to speak to that application? All right, next up then we have Tom Parker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, city manager. My name is Tom Parker. I live at 2743 Mineral Street. I've been a lifelong Dubuquer. I spent 25 years on the Dubuque Police Department. I retired in November of 2006. My rank at that time was captain. I was in charge of the Criminal Investigation Division. I had a fairly diversified career at the police department, a very strenuous but rewarding 25 years. Now, I left the police department. I had a great job opportunity in Cedar Rapids. I did not move to Cedar Rapids. There was a strong desire not to move there, but an even stronger desire to remain in Dubuque. Like I said, I'm a lifelong Dubuquer. I'm at a point in my life, I feel I have a very diversified background, a lot of life experience, and I'm at a point in my life where I just want to contribute, kind of give back. My role as the police department, I mentored a lot of young officers, had to discipline a few now and again. But my primary purpose was, I always thought, was coaching, counseling, mentoring. And I still believe that to this day. My job at Rockwell Collins, I was promoted manager and then senior manager, and I had a lot of people working underneath me. And I adhered to that philosophy of coaching, counseling, mentoring. Young people come in fresh out of college or just not a lot of life experience, work experience, and they need someone with, well, some gray hair to maybe show them the right, keep them in the guide rails, show them the right way to go. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity if I am appointed. So thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Well, thank you, Tom, for your comments. Appreciate it. All right, and the final applicant is Darcy Van Ostrand. Do we have anyone to speak to that application? Anyone virtually or written?
No.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to move on to the Community Development Advisory Commission. Here we have one 3-year term through February 2029. We have one applicant, Talma Brown. Do we have anyone here to speak to that application?
Ms. Brown did submit written input.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Okay, then I'll move on to our final review of the evening, Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. Here we have one 3-year term through 2028 and one applicant, Rebecca Bruce. Do we have anyone to speak to that application? Seeing no one here.
Ms. Bruce did submit written input.
All right, thank you very much, Adrian. Okay, we can move on to public hearings.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to, and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is Grand Harbor Hotel Assignment of Development Agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Resnick, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. Before I read my memo, I would like to tell the city council that David Westergaard, who is the chief financial officer for the Riddle Group and RG Hospitality LLC, is on the line tonight. So if you have any questions about this from their perspective, David is available to answer those. City Attorney Crenna Brumwell is recommending City Council approval of the assignment of the development agreement and lease agreement for the Grand Harbor Hotel from Westdell Capital Investors 3 LP to RG Hospitality LLC. Platinum Holdings LLC and the City of Dubuque, Iowa entered into a development agreement dated June 19th, year 2000, as amended, for the development of 5 acres into a hotel and water park resort. The parties also entered into a lease agreement on June 4th, 2001, as amended. A foreclosure action was filed by Westdell Capital Investors 3 LP against Platinum, resulting in a foreclosure judgment and sale. Pursuant to the foreclosure, Westdell is the successor in interest to Platinum. RG Hospitality LLC purchased the property at the foreclosure sale. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of the assignment of the development agreement for the Grand Harbor Hotel from Westdale Capital Investors 3 LP to RG Hospitality LLC. Do we have anyone here in chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one here, anyone virtually?
No.
Okay.
No input.
All right, thank you. Back to us then for any discussion.
Mayor.
Mr. Resnick.
Yes, I would invite the representatives of RG Hospitality to introduce themselves to us and to the residents of Dubuque. Let us know a little bit about you and maybe what your plans might be.
Mr. is it Westergaard? Yeah?
Yes, good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, City Council, Manager Van Milligan. It is an absolute pleasure to meet you virtually this evening. I am calling in from 2707 Mount Rushmore Road in Rapid City, South Dakota, our corporate headquarters. Our vision for the Grand Harbor Resort is to truly invest in this property and bring that property up to a standard that the Duluth community expected back when the development agreement was entered into in the early 2000s. And we've had some very, very good discussions and have an agreement in place with Choice Hotels to brand the property as a Radisson property. And we are working with City Manager Van Milligan on our development plans for the property. We certainly plan to revamp the rooms, redo the water park, and really bring it up to a standard that the whole community and the surrounding areas of Dubuque can be a part of. And we are absolutely excited to continue our relationship with the city of Dubuque. We have been a part of your community. We are our corporate entity is called Riddles Group, which is the parent company of Riddles Jewelry. We are primarily a jewelry chain, Midwest based, out of Rapid City, South Dakota, where we have 75 retail jewelry stores throughout the Midwest. We manufacture product right here in the USA, utilizing gold mined here in the USA, and distribute it through our own retail stores, as well as a number of retailers across the United States. And so you may be wondering, so what are we doing in the hospitality business? We ventured into the hospitality business in the early 2000s with Choice Hotels and have developed a number of properties with Choice Hotels, and currently have a property at the foot of Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills known as the K-Bar S Lodge. And again, we are extremely excited to continue our relationship in the community and have truly enjoyed the relationships that we have had. Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, for your time in sitting down with us, and City Manager Van Milligan has been absolutely instrumental in these discussions, and we are excited to invest in your community.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Others? Mr. Staver, did you have anything? I just want to make sure I ask.
No, I'm good.
All right, thank you. Just for the sake of knowing, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. This really doesn't change anything in the current development agreement as it stands. This is assigning the development agreement that existed to this new group, correct?
You are correct. This assigns what was originated back in the early 2000s, and it just puts it in the name of RG Hospitality so that we have a formal document with everybody's names on it and an understanding of the terms and conditions that exist today.
All right. Thank you, Krenna. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I just want to do a quick review for those folks watching it at home and community members. We, as the city of Dubuque, you all, our residents, own the property that is underneath the property they're purchasing. So we own the land. We do not own the building. And that is what, if I may, Ms. Brummel, that is what the lease agreement is. It is related to lease of the land. It is not our involvement at all in the physical property of the building.
Yes, with the caveat that there are some things in the development agreement and the lease related to, say, maintenance and upkeep of the property.
Requirements that we as a city now will require of them to participate in the lease agreement.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Well, seeing no other comments or questions, motion here is to receive and file and adopt this resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 2 is Grand Harbor Hotel assignment of lease agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Attorney Krenna Brumwell is recommending City Council approval of the assignment of the development agreement and lease agreement for the Grand Harbor Hotel from Westdell Capital's Investor 3 LP to RG Hospitality LLC. I concur with the recommendation and respect for the request, Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Well, we are in a public hearing to consider the City Council approval of the assignment of the lease agreement for the Grand Harbor Hotel from Westdale Capital Investors to RG Hospitality. Do we have anyone here in chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one here, anyone virtually?
No input.
Okay. Back to us then for any discussion. Seeing and hearing none. Motion is to receive and file and adopt this resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next is public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Well, welcome any public input this evening, if there is any. Seeing no one here so far. Anyone virtually? Okay. And we have anyone here? This will be last chance to talk about anything on the action items agenda if you wanted to do that. Okay. Seeing no public input, we can move on to action items, please.
I will just note quickly that the written input was received regarding action item number 1 from 3 individuals. Mike Wright, 385 Birch Street, Rick Jones, 1270 Dunlith Court, and S.A. Sutton of 1700 North Algona.
Thank you, Adrian.
And then with that, we will move on to action items. Action item number 1 is request for new ordinance medians 9-8-321.330.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that the proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Roussel and a second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. Chief of Police Jeremy Jensen is recommending City Council adopt a new ordinance to regulate pedestrian use of medians within the city of Dubuque. The proposed ordinance is intended to enhance public safety reduce liability, and provide clarity for enforcement personnel. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
All right, I believe we have a presentation from Chief Jensen. So, Chief, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Jeremy Jensen, Chief of Police. I'm here to discuss this proposed ordinance, and I'll kind of give you the why, when, and all the details of it. So why? First and foremost, and I keep hearing this, panhandling ordinance. It is not panhandling. Panhandling is not illegal. Court rulings have said this over and over. Outright bans are unconstitutional. This is about safety, pedestrian safety. Plain and simple, pedestrians do not win against vehicles. If a vehicle hits a person, the person loses. Yeah, I mean, it's simple on that. Motorist safety. You talk about things, distractions, and motorists going down the road, a lot of things going on, particularly on high speed, high volume roads, and then add another distraction to that. The complaint of people in the medians, particularly on Dodge Street and the Dodge corridor, is almost daily. Formal, informal, I can be anywhere, and I will literally have somebody come up and say, what are you going to do about Dodge Street and the people in there? It happens all the time. Quote, somebody's going to get hit. I couldn't see the guy in the wheelchair, and I almost hit him. There's people in this room that have had that happen. So that's why we started with a group to bring this, including city legal, and then the police department and engineering, as well as some of our partners that we work with, particularly in the homeless community, to discuss what we can do. What's being prohibited in the ordinance? High speed and high volume roadways are what we really are looking at. Again, the things that do not mix. Areas where medians are not designed areas where medians are actually designed to funnel and protect motorists, not pedestrians. So some of the medians we're talking about are not designed for pedestrian use. They're narrow, they're along these high speed roads, they just weren't. They're made for traversing, not standing in it and moving up and down it. So where? The locations are included in your maps. I was going to put them here, but there's a lot of that where it doesn't. It gets a little bit busy. But primarily our complaints, like I said, are Dodge Street, the Highway 151, 61 corridor, and the Locust Street connector, and then the intersections associated with these roadways. That's primarily the location where we are getting the complaints. So enforcement. This is really no difference. We covered this when we covered homelessness, and the idea that we're citing everybody and we're doing that. That's not it. We started with warnings. It's really about that idea is to get voluntary compliance. That's what we're looking for. And if there's somebody that needs services, we will provide the services, or we'll provide the connection to the services. We can do that. We have that ability through our partnerships, particularly with our critical incident team and our community policing program. We have that ability to do that. Everybody that we've had contact with referenced this being in the medians. Now, we address this. We go and address and talk to people and ask for voluntary to be safe. We've had zero, and I'll emphasize this, zero people want services, and it gets offered. The second part of that is how do you enforce it? Through a municipal infraction. What that does, it allows for some flexibility. The fine on it looks astronomical. It's a $750 starting fine. But what it allows for is the city attorney's office to do some flexibility. And I'll have Krenna explain that in a minute, what they can do with that. Or we can do the arrest. It's a simple misdemeanor. We can make an arrest, and the judge does what the judge does with that. But quite honestly, most people that we're talking about with this don't belong in jail. That's not the place to deal with that. Again, we're looking for voluntary compliance. We're looking to try to help somebody's situation if that warrants it, but it's really the enforcement side just gives us some teeth to be able to do that if it continues. So here's the municipal infraction. I'll have Krenna just explain that a little bit more, but I put the definition here from the city code.
So this section of city code on municipal infractions comes from a related state code. So Iowa Code Section 364.22 is the municipal infraction, or what we sometimes refer to as the civil infraction statute for the state of Iowa. The fines that you see for the initial offense and repeat offense in our local ordinance mirror that of the state code. It is an exact replica, the $750 up to for a first offense and up to $1,000 for a repeat offense. The process when someone gets a municipal infraction is they come to court, back up. If they come to court, they're given the option to admit the violation or deny the violation. If they deny the violation, it gets set for a hearing in front of one of our magistrates where they can contest the violation. If they admit the violation, typically what we do is we have had a conversation with staff in advance. So when you think about municipal infractions, remember that we have civil citations issued by many departments across the organization, and they are unique. It could be for pet licensing, or it could be for a zoning violation, could be for a housing code violation. So there's quite a wide variety of reasons that someone might be coming to court for a municipal or civil infraction. So we meet with the staff that have issued the infraction in advance. We have discussions if needed, and we try and identify what their needs are. Generally, the practice is that this is not about money, this is about achieving compliance. So for example, in some instances, we do a zero fine because what we're really after is the court order that gives a deadline for compliance, or a court order that says stop violating a particular code section. In some instances, we will do the $750 fine, and we will suspend it so long as there are no more violations within a certain period of time. So there is no outlay of any fine needed, but it remains out there as a mechanism or a motivation for compliance. So perhaps to persuade individuals to take advantage of the services that our CIT officers are trying to connect them with. So we like having that flexibility because this is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all type of scenario. We want to retain the options to get a court order. We want the option to explore other things. So for example, if we know that someone is struggling with particular challenges where they need to get medical care or assessments, we could include that as part of a court order. But we would rely on the police department to provide us that information so that we can best address the individual circumstances that are presented at court.
So here's just the fine schedule from the code, which you are aware of. So really, any questions for me?
All right. Well, hang out there, Chief. I think we probably will have some questions. So we'll go around and thank you both. Thank you and thank Krenna for the explanations there. All right, I'll open it up to questions and discussion for the council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you for that explanation. I've heard people say that we just don't want people hurting themselves because of this situation, whether it be the folks who are in the median or the drivers, obviously. But they have been, you know, as you mentioned, we're not about, well, let's try and get $750 from these people. And I've heard, well, this is really a cry for help. But they often, as you say, so far as you know, all the time refuse any kind of assistance as far as help in different ways. So my question to you is the interdiction itself is going to be kind of difficult. I'm trying to picture how you would do it actually, or maybe you would drive up to the situation and put on things and people can go around. But those intersections are tough the way they are. I mean, so is that the way you're going to get a handle on this situation?
It'll be a little situational, but yeah, all of that. But you bring up a very good point. It's also hard for us. We create more problems, honestly, when we turn on our lights and do things, traffic problems, you know, back to distractions and high volume roads, high speed roads. But to address it, we have been, like I said, we get the complaints, we go out and again, we can't enforce anything. There's certain codes, as I said in the memo, that we can if somebody's actually stepping out and stopping cars. That's disorderly conduct. There's movement along the highway. There's harassment. There's littering. I mean, there's a number of things, but it's not real clear. It doesn't fit for everything that's going on here. So yeah, we may pull up, may have to turn on the lights to address this. Depends on the safety issue. Again, if we can do so without stopping traffic or being in the middle of traffic, that's ideal. I mean, it's safer for the officers, safer for the motors, safer for the pedestrian. But again, we just depend on what the circumstance is.
I was just wondering, just the safety of the folks on the median too.
Yeah.
Whether or not you invite them in the police car and move them to a safer spot. I don't know how you do it, but it just seems to be even that is challenging with that kind of traffic.
For sure. And that may be. It just depends on how to get the movement to get off of the street. Or again, can we help you get over to the other side? We will help somebody get over to the other side because we don't want to just, hey, feel free, go, you know. We don't want to play Frogger on Dodge Street. So we would definitely have that. But yeah, it may be just as simple as, hey, we can give you a ride over here. And then that's one thing we'll do. You know, if you need a ride, we'll give you a ride. You know.
And I thank you one more time for saying this is not about panhandling right now. That's the visible, that's what people see. But it could be, you know, a protester with a sign, or, you know, lots of different things that people want to use it. My question too: what about do the fire folks with the boots ever do that? And what are they going to do?
They can't under this ordinance.
Right.
You cannot do that. I don't think our fire department does that, but yeah, you can. It's anybody. Yeah.
Anybody.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Wethel.
I think in Councilmember Jones's last meeting that he was with us, he gave us a list of things he voiced concern with that were jobs yet undone. And one of his concerns was an ordinance such as this to be brought before council. He mentioned, and it sunk in pretty significantly for me, the safety of those who are in the spaces, but also the safety, the long-term repercussions of someone who hits a pedestrian, someone who is not meaning to harm another human, and what that would do to that individual long-term. And so I think from a place of caring and empathy is where this comes from, and I'm disappointed that this was framed to our residents as something that is just simply about panhandling. This is about showing care, empathy, and concern for our community. So I thank you for bringing it to me. And I thank legal staff, because I think this was a lot to put together and make sure that we do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing anybody else here. Oh, Ms. Russell, go ahead.
I would like to add that I'm so glad to see that we're about voluntary compliance, about helping people get the services that they need, even though they may choose not to take them. And it's about safety. And I know that many residents will be happy to not have to worry about driving down the road and seeing these individuals and making sure they don't cause harm. I saw in the ordinance, rather than a list of addresses, like one of the attachments was a picture of the various intersections, you rather just describe the busy places where it's inappropriate to have this. Is that correct? So it's more of a generality of where you should not be as a pedestrian.
That's correct. So the maps were just to give you an idea what that all entailed. Very specifically did not put that specific into the ordinance. Quite honestly, a road could change. You know, we could add a road or do something different that could have that. So construction. So it's very it's left like that generally. But again, it has very specific things about speed and volume and that kind of thing.
Well, I just want to thank you for your caring approach, the flexibility that we as a city take in these sort of situations. I think Krenna said addressing the individual's circumstances and making sure that it's not about money, but about compliance and safety. And I think we can all agree that that is the ultimate goal for this ordinance. So thank you all for that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spring, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I want to start off with, I understand the safety aspect that that those are very unsafe intersections. I see the folks themselves there panhandling, asking for help and assistance. I understand not safe intersections. I don't exactly agree with this, but I also am appreciative that we've come up with a middle ground, like Ms. Rossell and our lovely assistant, our lovely attorney mentioned, that the flexibility is what I'm appreciative of. So I'm really glad that we're kind of finding a middle ground, because I feel trying to ask somebody who's panhandling for $1,000 or even $750, it ain't gonna happen. It's just gonna be trying to get blood out of a turnip when somebody may already be in a very unfortunate situation, and some folks, they may not be. I don't know. You never know what people are going through. So I'm glad that we're figuring a middle ground, because I feel trying to get fines out of people is just more of a waste of our time, so to speak. So appreciative of how we came to this kind of this final.
I can add that I doubt that we will ever fine anybody with this. I would bet that we get the great majority of voluntary compliance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I have a few questions here. First of all, I want to read what we're actually voting on in the ordinance here. So there's two basic parts of at the end of the ordinance that are, a lot of it's in the ordinance itself talks about definitions of things. But what the actual prohibition is, it says, it shall be unlawful for any person to access, use, occupy, congregate, or assemble on or about any median that is not designed or suitable for pedestrian use. And it goes on to say any violation of this section shall be punished as provided in section 142 of this code, which we kind of talked about, but I'm going to get to a little bit more of that. There are a few exemptions: law enforcement, parking enforcement personnel, emergency responders, employees of the city. You'll see them watering flowers on medians from time to time, things like that. Employees that are, or contractors that are there to do actual work for the city, anything having to do with an emergency in the street, those are the exemptions to this. So this has nothing to do specifically with what is termed as panhandling. So it is not illegal to ask for money.
That is correct.
And it will not be illegal to ask for money in the city of Dubuque.
That is correct.
Okay. So I just want to make that really clear for everybody, because I think it's a really important distinction. For some reason, this was sort of turned as an anti-panhandling ordinance. Now, what we have right now are the reason for this, a lot of the why for this currently, is we do have individuals who are using the medians, and that is the activity. They are asking for money in there. Are there other places in the roadway that are also illegal to ask for money? You mentioned one already. You said the lanes themselves, like you can't stop traffic, right? Is it illegal
correct.
anywhere else for people to interact with drivers or ask for something?
Yeah, so the lanes themselves, and what, like, shoulders are a little more difficult because of the way that's described, because pedestrians can use the shoulder.
Yep.
Entry, if you look under the hitchhiking code, it says pedestrians have to move a certain way against traffic, and it talks about, and there's also a code that talks about pedestrian movement on the roadway that talks about that. As long as they're not stopping traffic or not stepping into the traffic lane and that kind of thing, then they can move up and down the shoulders of the roadway. As far as corners on intersections, again, as long as they're not stepping into the roadway, not stopping traffic, staying out of that, and there's an ability for egress so the person can get away. So something happens. I mean, crashes happen at intersections, being able to egress from that. Yeah, as far as that's the very specific parts of that where, again, you can, on the sidewalk, you can do all these things. You just don't, it has to do with interacting with traffic. That's plain and simple what it is.
Yeah. And we just have what we found here is a bit of a loophole in our ordinances, that we don't have anything that specifically addresses medians. And that's the reason for this tonight, is because the people know that we're not supposed to be in roadways or in crosswalks or on shoulders impeding traffic or making traffic movement difficult, but nothing really on the medians necessarily that says you can't stand there and loiter or stay in one place.
It allows us to be proactive, is what it does, because the disorderly conduct's reactive. You have to step into traffic. Yeah. What we don't want is we want to prevent that step. We don't want to prevent you before you do that, before that interaction. So this allows us to be proactive, allows us to start our steps, the good for the voluntary compliance. One gentleman here very recently has pretty much has told us to pound salt when we talk to him and try to ask him to please don't do that, you know. Again, we don't have any enforcement action on it, so he stays. But again, a frequent call for us.
Sure. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about some of those details. So first of all, just to close this out, from a fine standpoint, I'm very comfortable with what I'm hearing from you, because I think there's some education that is required for all of us a lot of the time. I think those of us on the council, but then also members of the public too, that how it works when we enforce municipal infractions. It's not always a draconian, this is $750, you're going to pay it, and that's that. That's not the way it works.
No, it is not. And we routinely tell people that on the first time they see us, that we will give them, a zero fine or a very small fine, $25 or $50, with the idea that we never want to see them again. But the idea that if we do see them again, understand that it may be a more harsh, consequence for the noncompliance.
And that's municipal infractions of all kind, right? I mean, we have lots of different municipal infractions that people could incur one reason or another.
Yes, like I said, it could be zoning violations, no noise code violations, not having a building permit. It could be an animal license. It could be possession of alcohol or smoking tobacco under the legal age. There's a very wide assortment that we see. And so as an example, let's use smoking as a minor. We offer a class that we send minors to address that, but it's court ordered, so they have to do that and go get the education about the consequences that smoking can have. So it is tailored based on the circumstance, the information we get from staff, and in some cases, particularly in the case of minors, we even engage with the parents and see what they would like to see happen.
Gotcha. Thanks, Greta. I think that's very helpful to be able to paint a fuller picture of what we are actually talking about here when it comes to fines. There was something not long ago, it was a few years, I guess, at this point, but that we talked about. It was a camping ordinance. And at the time, there was a big concern that, kind of the same concern I'm thinking of what I'm hearing from some folks right now, that we were going to just start enforcing this immediately, start fining people, and people weren't going to be able to pay those fines. I'm just curious if you could give us a little bit of an update on how you've worked with that particular ordinance since it was passed. Has anyone been fined? What do you do? How's that going?
Sure. So I have Captain Steve Radloff, with Community Policing. They're the ones that work with this, and he can answer that.
Hi.
Hi, Captain.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Steve Radloff, I'm the captain assigned to the Community Policing Division. We have never cited anybody for the camping ordinance up to this day. We're averaging probably between 50 and 75 camps a year that we deal with. And we provide at least references to services. But other than that, we try to help them relocate or try to get them, placed into housing or something of that manner.
How does it work with compliance? I mean, we have an issue here where we may be concerned a little bit about the compliance that we have. Are people complying with the police when you do address them? And I know it's not just you either. You work with community organizations to have some sort of a service group that can help with this, right?
Yeah, Community Solutions of Eastern Iowa through ECIA is one of our main partners. A lot of times we will let them know where a camp is, and they go out and make contact first before we show up. When we do show up, we try to make contact with whoever owns the camp. If they're not there, we try to keep checking back until they are there. If we can't find them within a day or two, we will post notice that they have 48 hours to vacate. Sometimes we alter that a little bit. If it's a large camp, they have a lot of belongings there, a lot of stuff, we'll give them a little more time. Or if there's a weekend coming up, or recently the holidays, stuff like that. So we try to work with people and try to help them out, at least getting services and some type of referral in that nature.
Okay. Thanks, Captain. I think that's helpful. I have one more question, then I'll open it back up if there's any others from the council. Now let's get into the larger context of this. First of all, I have no problem with this ordinance as it is written. I think this ordinance, there was questions of its constitutionality. I don't have any questions in my mind about its constitutionality, because this is about people standing or gathering on medians in places where it's dangerous, and we don't want them doing that. I don't think that's a problem. I think that we can definitely have an ordinance that says that, and we should in the city of Dubuque. I'm also comfortable with the way that we enforce municipal infractions based on the conversation that we're having here tonight and conversations that we've had before about these municipal infractions. So I'm feeling good about voting for this as it stands right now. But it does bring up the larger question of just the services that we need to provide for people who need them in our community. So people who are experiencing homelessness, people who are experiencing potential mental health challenges, I'm curious if we can just have a brief discussion a little bit for the sake of the public of what are the things that we are doing as a city to try and coordinate that. We don't provide services to people directly who are dealing with homelessness. We don't have city-owned housing, for example, that we house people in. We have to work with community organizations on this. So how does that coordination go? How is it going? Are there ways that we're trying to improve that? Because we are seeing, an increase in homelessness in Dubuque and in the United States. I mean, this is a challenge right now. We've seen, I believe it was Councilmember Wethel went on a point in time count last year, right? And got some experience with that and told us about the high numbers that we're seeing there. I just would love to hear a little bit more about this right now because I know that we're trying as a city and trying to coordinate this. And I know Assistant City Manager Burbach, you do some of this work too. So if you want to chime in, feel free.
Yeah, actually, there's a number of partners in this room that we work on. I point out that Jeff Lenhart from the Missions here, he's part of that, of the group. So we do a lot. So police, city in general is the first responder on this, right? We get a call and to react. Our community partners, Captain Radloff talked about CSCI, being that is the homeless, like a camp, you contact CSCI and say, hey, can you have contact with these individuals and see if you can get them into, even within the city, when we meet, like I said, Assistant City Manager Burbach, housing, a number of different of our city staff, even parking is part of that. We have a number of people that get together and looking for solutions where we can get people. Again, you've heard, it's not one size fits all. Everybody's situation's a little bit different. Everybody's situation's like, I will take these services. We don't provide them. We just point them to that. What Captain Radloff's unit's really good about is making those connections. They're developing the partnerships, finding out who that is, and then it's just acting as the catalyst to get somebody where they need to be for services. But we have a whole number of groups, and yeah, you can bring up more.
Assistant City Manager Corey Burbach. Yeah, we've talked a lot with our partners about what is the city's role. So one of our roles, if we're talking about unhoused residents in particular, is what you all have done to create more affordable housing options in the community to keep them from getting there. And then as the chief said, we work with our partners to figure out how we do those warm handoffs so that, for instance, we fund the homeless hotline through Community Solutions of Eastern Iowa. So we are actively putting funds into some of those projects in a space that we've determined isn't city staff's role to play. But we also are trying to close those gaps that we're not, so that when we do encounter a resident, we're not saying, oh, go talk to that person, go talk to that person. We participate in coalitions like the Homelessness Advisory Committee. That's a group of frontline service providers. So when they meet, they're saying, who are you seeing walking in the doors this week? What do we have to do? What's the gap? When funding issues around food security came up, for instance, that group came together. So they're boots on the ground. What we are doing right now is we are looking at those organizations and asking the question, are the policymakers in those organizations engaged in the same way? And are there gaps? And so one of the things that you may be seeing in the near future is asking same organizations, different level of decision makers to come together to make sure that we are looking at all of the ways that we can tackle this hairy issue.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's an important part of this conversation, even though this conversation isn't about homelessness directly. It's not about asking for money directly. It's about something different, but it has it's led to a conversation about that in the community. And I think it's important to be able to talk about those things. And I appreciate that we are doing so much work because I think we are and we have been for a long time. But I also appreciate the fact that that work continues to become more challenging, continues to become more complicated when we live in a society that has in a country that has a mental health system that doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody, and it's not working for a lot of people, and it needs a lot of help. And that's only one aspect of other things we need to do. You mentioned housing, Corey, in the conversation you were having, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons that we have discussed housing so much at this table is because of the fact that housing is what helps people when they need to be able to find a place that they can stay long term. But that also is just one piece of it, because it needs to be, the only thing that really works long term is some sort of a supportive permanent housing model. And that's really difficult to deliver, but I appreciate that we are trying. We're doing our best as one community to try and do that, and I think we can continue to do so. I'll open it back up for any other questions or comments if we have any from council. Okay. All right. Well, the motion here before us is, thank you very much, Chief and Captain. Appreciate it. And Krenna for everything you gave, and Corey as well. Motion here before us is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings on this ordinance. So, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 2 is 2026 federal legislative priorities.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Sprank and a second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. Department managers and City of Dubuque strategic partners worked with consultant Terry Goodman to develop the set of recommended 2026 federal legislative priorities. I recommend and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval of the 2026 federal legislative priorities.
Thank you, Mike. I'll kick this one off. You know, you can't put everything in your legislative priorities. I mean, you can't put every single thing that you want the federal government to focus on in the city's legislative priorities. This is a pretty healthy list. It's a long one. There's a lot in there, but it is the things that are based on the goals and priorities that we set as a council. And I know that there are other things that community members are focused on and want us to focus on as a city. It doesn't mean that we aren't doing that either. It means that, you know, there's some things that have to be priorities that we're putting in this list and the things that we're going to talk about the most. So I appreciate this list. I know it is very comprehensive. I know that we have a lot of conversations coming up with our federal partners about a lot of the things that are on this list. You know, we have a goals and priorities list that was pretty long last year, and we have a lot of work to do in the next few years. So I appreciate that we keep doing this, and it does shape our conversations with our federal partners when we go and talk to them. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your comments. I also wanted to say what I appreciate about these priorities is that they're followed by specific actions that we request. There's a lot of work that goes into this. I was going to ask, you know, how are these determined, these priorities? And then it was given to our residents, right, with the introduction. So it has immediate impact directly affecting our community. You know, we don't just have comment on every, like you say, every situation that we would like to see it be a little bit different. They're right about this community, and they include specific actions that our legislators, our partners can help us with. So thank you very much for those. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further comments or questions on this item, motion here is to receive and file and approve. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 3 is new ladder truck static display.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and set the ladder truck display for February 2nd.
Second.
Got a motion by Roussel and a second by Wethel. Just so everybody knows, especially those of you with small children, the ladder truck will be on display on February 2nd, on Monday, right before the city council meeting. It's always a great chance to be able to see some of the new equipment that we've invested in, and appreciate the chief and her entire team helping us with that. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is work session request travel Dubuque annual update.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and set the work session for February 2nd, 2026 at 6 p.m.
Second.
Got a motion by Wethel, second by Roussel. This is before our council meetings. Does that work for everybody? All right. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leyendecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is work session request city budget resources and online transparency tools.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and set the work session for March 2nd, 2026 at 5:15 PM.
Second by Sprang.
Got a motion by Wethel, second by Sprank. Again, before a council meeting. All right, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Lyon Decker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next are council member reports.
All right, what have we been up to? Holidays are over. Not as many excuses to stay home and it's nice and warm, right? Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I was appointed at our last meeting as the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Solid Waste Agency new board member and was invited by Ken Miller and his team to join them for a quick tutorial and a great tour. Fascinating, the work they do, the way that they use technology to manage our solid waste management is really impressive. Just a great crew of people, and grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Mr. Sprank.
Thank you. After our last meeting on the 5th, on Tuesday the 6th, I went to the ribbon cutting at the Key Hotel, which is down on Schmidt Island. Got a nice tour, beautiful hotel, waiting for that rooftop restaurant. Not sure what they're going to put in there, but going to be gorgeous when it's all said and done. And then I've been meeting back and forth with a group with the Table Mountain Association. We're planning on February 5th to go down to Des Moines and go talk to folks at the Capitol. There's a bus chartered, so we've got space. So if folks want to figure out how to come down, get a hold of me. We'll try to get you down there as well. So just been excited with everything going on and looking forward to, hopefully we don't get any more snow, but is what it is.
You can just keep on hoping against hope on that one, Mr. Sprank.
I can help. Yep.
Yeah, Ms. Roussel.
Thank you. Well, I also attended the ribbon cutting at the Key Hotel. It was really great to see that opening. I attended the Dubuque Trees Forever quarterly board meeting, the HACAP steering committee, and I met Jamie Ironside, the new president and CEO of the Dubuque Regional Humane Society. And it was really great to see all the partnerships that they use to help move their organization forward in a more cost-effective way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Londecker.
Yeah, so I continue my orientation process, which continues to be great to meet with all the department heads and understand what their departments are doing and their priorities and things of that nature. So I met with, in the past 2 weeks, I met with Parks and Recs, library, the airport, engineering, and police. So that's been great. I've got a number of scheduled over the next couple of weeks as well, which is good. Outside of that, I, as part of council, and as we talked about at the last meeting, I did join Dubuque Initiatives. So had my first board meeting with that association, so that was great. A lot of exciting things going on there. And then also I had the opportunity to meet with Table Mounds, and specifically met at 821 Garfield, the house there, and got a tour of that, which the work there that the students have done has been tremendous. So very excited for that neighborhood and for that house, and to see what comes of it. So
yeah, great. Thank you very much. Anyone else? I've had a few things. First of all, a couple of things you did. Key Hotel, beautiful. Can't wait to see that fully come online. Schmidt Island is really going to be a great place here in the next few years. So excited about that. Did a couple of chamber events. So actually, Mr. Leindecker and I were together at the local Leaders Day for the Chamber Young Professionals Group right here in this room. Talked to them, answered some great questions. Very interested group, an interesting group of some folks in our workforce, younger folks in our workforce. Also the Chamber Legislative Kickoff and the Chamber Forecast Luncheon, which are good ways to start the year. So I appreciate the Chamber having all these opportunities for us to hear from people like our legislators and have some really good conversations like we did at the Forecast Luncheon. The last thing I want to mention is that I had a great opportunity to meet with a couple of groups that are working with our immigrant population here in Dubuque. First of all, the Presentation Lantern Center is doing some really great work on helping people who are new to Dubuque, who have immigrated from other countries, to be able to do things like have language lessons if they need them, be able to have connections with people here in the community. I appreciate very much the work they're doing and inviting me in to have a conversation with them. And then also met with a group called Building Bridges that's doing some great work in coordinating work with other folks in the immigrant community here in Dubuque. As we know, we've had a pretty strong growth in our immigrant population in Dubuque, and I appreciate that there are so many people that are focused on that. So I think that's just about everything I've been up to, aside from running kids around to all kinds of crazy events. So we do have a closed session, so I appreciate everybody being able to report tonight, but I'll take a motion to put us in closed session, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
in accordance with Chapter 21.51 Code of Iowa, I move to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price of the governmental body would have to pay for the property.
Second.
Got a motion by Wethel, a second by Mr. Leindecker. Crenny, you were leaning towards your mic there. Anything, or are you good?
I was just going to say that can be purchase or sale of real estate.
Oh, we forgot the purchase or
So
sale.
I would just friendly amendment there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So purchase or sale. Mr. Leindecker, you okay with seconding that if we say purchase or
Yes.
sale? All right, thank you. For the record, the attorney the city council will consult with on the issues to be discussed in closed session is city attorney Brenna Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Staver.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Leindecker.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session. Have a good night, everybody.